When you think of visual effects, you usually think of green screen and CGI and all these things that Hollywood blockbusters do. But today we're going to show you some smaller visual effects that we actually used in our film Redacted. So if you've seen Redacted, which you should definitely go check out over here, there's like 2 shots that you would probably think, yeah, that was a green screen. But would you have guessed that we had 19 visual effects shots in this film? A lot of them are invisible. So let's talk about it. I'm going to show you some of them. Let's get into After Effects. Hi, I'm Jaco, and I actually have a degree in visual effects. I double majored during undergrad at AFTA Film School before doing directing and writing in postgrad. I did all the visual effects for Redacted, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, so let's look at the first visual effect shot of this movie. This is what it ended up looking like. Did you see the effect? So here's the original shot. And as you can see, the shadow here of Michael lunging towards her, he sort of like goes forward and then he moves back a little bit. And I thought that if you just use that in the movie, you know, it's like the monster goes in and then he releases, which I didn't really want. I wanted it to look more menacing, as if he's like covering the room. So what I had to do is paint over this wall with the shadow. So the best way that I could think of to do this is go through, find a spot where your shadow is covering the wall, like for example there. Click on the layer, duplicate it, right click, time, freeze frame, and then just cut out the shadow that I want to keep. Now if we turn off that layer, you can see we've got the shadow isolated. And because we freeze framed it, it sticks there. So I basically just went through here, grabbed a bunch of freeze frames on different spots. And very important, it happens as he passes those points. You don't want the shadow to pop up unnaturally. And then at the end here, I just rotoscoped a very, very loose mask around our actress here, Adrian, as she runs out. And yeah, that's it, the first invisible effect. Very simple. So next up, we've got the shot of the bathroom. You might be thinking, what's needed here? And obviously, because we shot this in a real bathroom, I didn't want to use the house light, the light that's already there, because it had like a weird green tinge, which I didn't want. And we had some professional lighting shaping it and whatever. The problem is you can very clearly see that the light is off. So it's like, where's that light coming from? So what I did was duplicate the layer, add a little mask around the light here, feather it quite a bit, and then add the exposure effect. So then you could easily just bring up the exposure. The offset is what makes it like really bright. So bring it up until where it looks right. Duplicate it, the bottom layer, put it on top, and then just went through and rotoscoped her arm. Now this is probably going to be a lot easier now that the Rotobrush 2 tool has been added to After Effects. I don't know, I just decided to go through and do it manually because it's just an arm and it doesn't have to be super perfect. You can see there's a little bit of bleed there when our arm covers it, because that's what a real light would do. And that's the second effect. Let's move on. Okay, so now if we look at the final film here, right, you can see that the door opens from left to right. And then she closes it, and then she's in the hallway. Now the problem that we had is that the bathroom was actually located in a completely different spot in the house from the hallway. And I really wanted this shot of Al, the character, walking down the hallway and all that stuff that you saw. If I zoom into this shot here, however, this door at the end of the hallway that we wanted to use opens the opposite way. So what I had to do is take out the door handle for all of those shots and then put it on the other side. First off, you just duplicate the layer, find a little spot that would cover the door handle, freeze frame it as well, and then you just move it over the door handle and then maybe feather it a little bit as well. And there you go, now it's blended. What we had to do now is there's a shadow that moves there. So I added a little bit of the Lumetri. I keyframed both the shadows and the highlights and the temperature. And then as she passes and it gets darker, just make the shadows and the highlights a little bit darker and then make the temperature a little more orange. The only thing left is to rotoscope like I showed you before. And then the last thing that I needed to add was the door handle back on the other side. So again, duplicate the bottom layer, find a spot where the door handle is visible. I move the anchor point to the center, go to scale, unlink it, flip it around, and then again, just move it to that side, and then remember to freeze frame, and then there you go, feather it a bit as well. Do that same trick that we did with the shadows, and Bob's your uncle. Just rotoscope that thing a little bit. I've got a door handle on the other side. Last thing I did was to match the grain, right? So when you're doing freeze frames, it's very apparent that it's a freeze frame because there's no sort of grain that the rest of the image would have. If I zoom in here, play it back, you can see there's a lot of, it looks like noise, it's a little bit grainy. Easy thing that you can do to combat that is just go match grain in the effects panel, change the preview to final output, and then just choose your original layer as the source. And yeah, that's basically all I did for this shot. And then when we get to our second door handle fix, you can see here that it's a tracking shot. It's a moving shot, handheld, okay? And we still need to get rid of that door handle over there. So now we need to do some tracking. I just went for the normal track motion, which is actually pretty good. Okay, and then when that completes, just create a new null object and then apply. And there you go. Now you've got something that sticks on there pretty good. And from here on, it's basically the same idea. You just want to duplicate your original there, make a freeze frame, find a spot to cover it up with, cover it up, feather it a bit, and then just pick whip it to your tracking null, and there you go. Pretty much tracked. Now obviously you're going to still have to rotoscope that part, and with this one I didn't even bother putting that door handle on the other side because it would only be visible for like a very small amount of time over here. Plus her hair's in the way, so it would be really difficult to roto that. So I just left it out. I don't know if any of you noticed. Let me know. Alright, so moving on. The next one here, you see we've got the nice Dutch tilt that I really enjoy. And again, we need to remove that door handle and add a new one back on that side. So for this one, for some reason I couldn't use the normal track. It wouldn't work. So I had to use a Mocha track. The handle is on the same plane as the little window here, and the window has a lot more contrast than the handle. Using my little X-Spline tool over here, just made a little square mask around my window, and then just hit track forward. Okay, now once your track is completed, hit save, and then close out of there. And then you can expand your tracking data over here, add another null object over there. You want to do the transform data. You need to create your tracking data from layer 1 and then apply export to your null. And then you'll see, oh, there's your null, and it's all smoothly tracked and stuff. Okay, so for this one, I actually decided that I was just going to export this frame to Photoshop, clone out the little door handle, and then put it back on. Okay, and then as soon as Photoshop is open here, I could just grab my little clone stamp tool, zoom in over there, select an area, and then, just do that thing where it paints out stuff that you don't want to see. Okay, so now it's gone. We can just hit save, right, and close it. Then we can bring in this frame, and you can see it's just a Photoshop frame now. We'll just make a little mask over the area we want to keep, and then we just parent that to our null, playback, and you can see, there you go. Now the track drifted a little bit, so I just manually put it back where I felt like it needed to be. And this probably happened because, as you can see here, the shot goes out of focus. And it goes out of focus just because, like, Adrian moves closer to the camera, so obviously camera focuses a little bit further. So that's pretty easy to fix as well. As soon as the blur starts, you just add, it can be any blur. I like to use the fast blur because it doesn't use a lot of processing power. You just put a little blur on there, go all the way to the end when she gets closest to camera. Just obviously don't put too much, just click to see when you're in the right ballpark. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So yeah, now the only thing that's left to do is to add that door handle back in there. You just make a freeze frame, put it back in there. And there you go. I've just shown you 3 different ways to remove a door handle or anything else from the background of your shot. So I think that deserves a like. What do you think? Just smash it. Just smash it. All right, cool. Moving on. Okay, now for the next shot, I really wanted to use this moment in Adrian's performance because it's like the moment right before the ghost figure like grabs her. The way we filmed this is actually a clean plate, right? And then eventually Michael, the shadow guy, comes into his position, and then I call action again, and then Adrian starts doing her acting thing, and lights go off and he grabs her. So I had to get rid of Michael. Okay, and this is exactly why you grab the clean plate, because I knew somewhere I might want to paint him out on set. So I just went through, I grabbed my clean plate, I make my little mask around the part that I want to keep, but then you can see it doesn't line up perfectly. There's some lighting changes because the door is open now. The couch moved probably because when Adrian was like around the door opening it or whatever. So we need to fix that. So the first thing I do is try to look for some lines that we could use to hide the cut. So I just add along the wall here, and then I just sort of come through across the tile here. Now, of course, we can see Michael's shoes. Just duplicate that layer, delete that previous mask, and then just make a little rough mask that I can take out later. And then again, very important, it has to go around a line so that it's not too visible. We'll give that one a little feather, not a lot, maybe just 5. And there you go. Michael's been painted out. And this time, because it's not a freeze frame, because we grabbed the plate, we don't even have to add the match grain because it's already grainy. Okay, moving on. Next, we've got the money shot, where Michael appears behind it. Now, this is the raw video, right? From just cutting. And as you can see, it's not very good. We've got the shadow here from our production assistant turning off the lights. And then when it actually cuts, you can see like everything is in the same spot except Adrian and the guy. Now, Adrian tried her best to just stand still, but you know, it takes a little while. But again, we shot this in a way where there was a clean plate at the end of the lights on and of the lights off. So what I decided to do here is grab the clean plate, and then I just rotoscoped around Adrian here, very loosely, didn't have to be perfect. And then I just matched her position as best I could to the shot where Michael is in. Just bring down the opacity to like 50. And then you just move and scale and do what you gotta do until it fits, like that. Okay? And then just to make it a little bit easier to transition between the two, I actually keyframed that opacity from 0 to 100 within those 2 frames so that it looks like the light's going off. But actually, if you check our raw footage over here, there's this point where the light turns on, and you can see it has this like really natural glow to it. So I just grabbed that part, reversed it, put a little mask over the door here, because obviously we don't want the kitchen light to also fade on. Just added a little subtraction mask over there. And now you can see the light has this really natural glow down effect to it as we fade into the shot of Michael being behind her. Now, the second problem that I had with the shot, to make the creatures seem a little bit more unnatural, I actually added a little time stretch here, made it around 50%, and then as soon as he grabs her, take the time stretch off, right, so that her reaction is in real time. So what you get is this really quick movement of his arm there. You can see, whah, and then it slows down again for her reaction. So it's like, oh, where did that come from? Yeah, so that's that effect. Pretty cool. Let's move on. Okay, and now for like a whole bunch of just masking things. Here's some tricks. So you can see here in this shot that we have, this is one of the pickups that we did in Mark's garage. If you don't know about that, you can go check out the behind the scenes over here. We had to do some pickups in Mark's garage, and then when I got this specific shot, I accidentally got the wall in the shot over here. Now, you would think it'd be as easy as just making a mask over there. setting it to subtract. But now the black on the background here and the black, just pure black, is obviously not the same. Now you can do this in two ways. You can select this black and a new solid, put it underneath, and then just add a whole bunch of grain to it. But you can see it still doesn't really look the same. There's a little bit of a gradient in it. So what I actually did do on set, and it might seem counterintuitive or dumb, but I actually grabbed literally a shot on set of just black with the same lighting. You can see it's not like just pure black, but there's like noise on it. It's got the same ISO, same settings, same codec, everything. So what I did was actually just put that underneath. I can move it around, I can scale it up, and then what I ended up doing is just adding a little bit of shadows and tints through Lumetri. And you can check the blending by just adding an adjustment layer with your light. Obviously, you want to keep this as bland as possible so that your grader can go in and do all the fancy color things. And I just make sure to turn that off when I render. Cool, so I did that for like a whole bunch of these shots. This one, Michael was in the shot here so that she could, bump into him, but I wanted to do that reverse shot where he's not there and then he's there. You've seen the movie. So I wanted to get rid of him. Sorry, Michael. Next one that I did is actually in this very shot over here where she does run into him with the flippy thing. So if I turn off the mask here, we put him a little bit too close to the C-stands. Just again, rotate that out, used our clean layer, and Bob's your uncle. So as you can see, I've had to fix a lot of silly mistakes in this movie, but you know what wouldn't be a mistake? Pressing subscribe. I mean, I think we've got some pretty good videos, and it's free. Who cares, man? Just go ahead. Press it. Thanks. Moving on. Then there was some sign fixing that I had to do. You see the sign shots over here? So we didn't actually get like a wide of the rules, right? We got like a medium and a close-up or whatever, but we didn't get a wide, and I really wanted to get a wide. So what I did was just literally make a little mask around here. I think I freeze framed. I didn't even freeze frame it. It's from this shot here when Michael is also in the shot. I literally just moved it over to the middle, used our little black. I think I added a little bit of Lumetri because it was a little bit dark, and when I added the LUT, it didn't look quite right. So I just made it so that I know that when the grader puts the LUT on, they're not fighting the black background versus the actual rules sign that they are grading. Anyways, and then the other sign thing that I had to fix, I can kick myself for this shot. So the original shot is actually the one where it says the door, and we actually shot the call again as one of those panny shots. So my bad, but easy to fix at least. So all I had to do is look for a frame here where the call again is like framed up straight on with the camera. Again, freeze frame. Michael, because he's a human, actually moves a little bit when he holds the sign. So I had to track that. Again, I tracked this one in Mocha, just put a little box around there, tracked it, put it onto the null, and then parented the null to that thing, and then just match the grain again. Super simple. All right, now for the green screen shots. This was difficult. It took me so long to figure this out, but it's actually not too difficult once you understand what's happening, right? So the idea is that this curtain or the sheet or whatever drops, and then she sees her future self. Okay, so this is the original shot. So we've got Mark in here, we've got a hand in there, Emily's hand, and then we've got this wrinkly old green screen. But anyway, let me show you my green screen technique. Duplicate the layer. I'm going to turn off that thing. And then I actually like to grade the clip that I'm going to green screen. When you try to green screen the log footage, it's a lot more difficult because the green becomes a lot more subdued. So I just add my little A7S3 thing over there. Bring up my exposure a little bit. Maybe the shadows. Bring down the highlights. Try to get that screen as even as I can. Okay, then pre-compose it. And you definitely want to change your attributes to move. And then we add our key light. And right off the bat, that looks horrible. So then you come to your screen matte. I want to find a green where my subject is pretty good in the foreground, but then the screen is also disappearing quite a lot. That seems pretty good. Come through to my screen matte. We clip the blacks a little bit. We bring up the whites a little bit. And then we change this to intermediate. Okay, now we can see, I'm just going to turn that off. Now we can see it's not a very good key. So that's why we did it on a separate layer. Then I come through to my original layer, and then I alpha matte that thing. But now we can bring in our this thing that we want to be on the other side of the screen. So just pop it at the bottom there, and I can see it. Okay, there it is. Now, Adrian is like really close to where they are. Okay, so I'm literally, because it's a green screen, I'm literally just gonna move offset it. Maybe that much. Now, you might see these creases over here and think, oh, that's an issue. But for this specific purpose that I'm going to use it for, it's actually not, right? Remember that black recording that we had? Let's bring that in as well. Now, obviously, we don't want the screen to have this weird hard edge over here, right? So we're gonna actually add some lumetry to this layer to bring down those shadows to match better, and we're going to bring up the shadows on the background layer. Okay, so what we want to do here with the people layer here is just remove that section. And I'm the kind of guy who likes to make a mask around the part I want to take away and then change it to a subtraction mask. That might be a little weird for some people. That's just the way I like to do it. So you can see in this layer there was a little bit of a light spill on this side of it. So again, I'm just gonna just cut that part out. Might even expand this mask all the way around there. Again, subtraction mask, gone. Okay, now we want to do feathers, especially on that one, but also on this one. And we want to play around with some color to make it match the black better. And then you end up with something like this. So you want to cut out this finger over there. But yeah, now we've got this effect. And if we turn on the adjustment layer with that doesn't look too bad. You'll notice there's a little bit of green around her hair and on this thing. So what we want to do is just add this spill suppressor, but the advanced spill suppressor. Now, I want it to look more like a curtain. I don't know about you. So I'm going to duplicate this layer again, no track matte this time. And I'm putting it underneath, and I'm literally just bringing down the opacity 30%. Okay, and now you can see, oh, it looks like there's something up over them. That's good. That's good. So after I did that, and I figured that out, now I can deal with this hair, because that just looks terrible. And what I ended up doing is just duplicating this original layer, putting it on top, bringing that opacity all the way back up, and then literally just rotoscope the hair. This took a really long time. And yeah, you can see it's still not perfect. And yeah, there you go. That's how I did it. I did basically the exact same thing with the second shot, although the key was a little bit easier for some reason. And those are the 19 visual effects shots in Redacted. A lot of them might seem like really simple and easy, but these are the sorts of things that you will be asked to do as a visual effects artist. If it's not a door handle, maybe there's a cable that was left in shot, or a C-stand, or whatever. These are the kinds of things that you would do as a day-to-day job. Visual effects is not always CGI, make this robot, make it do this, make it look like that. A lot of time it's just removing things and making things look better. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider smashing the like button. And while you're down there, might as well click subscribe. I think we've got some pretty good videos. We release new videos every Tuesday and every Friday, with a new short film on the first Friday of every month. So until next time, go out there, stay safe, make your movie.